Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is James Mann, I'm the owner of Spicebush Woodcraft and Foraging. I am a forager, naturalist, and chef. And today we are going to go on a special adventure, and this is going to be a series of videos throughout the spring. I'm talking about spring ephemeral flowers. This is my favorite time of the year because the forest floor is just coming alive with all kinds of little tiny flowers. And what I like to say is this is the biggest, littlest flower show that you've never seen. So come on and let's learn about some spring ephemeral flowers. So before we get into the episode, let's talk a little bit about what a spring ephemeral flower is. And as you can see behind me, there are many varieties and types of spring ephemeral flowers, and you're only going to see them for a brief time in the spring before the trees have gotten their leaves. So as you can see behind me, there's no leaves on the trees right now, so the sunlight is penetrating all the way down to the forest floor. And this is so important because in the early spring, the forest floor needs that sunlight to, number one, trigger these spring ephemeral plants, and number two, it starts to warm up the soil after a long winter. And spring ephemerals play a very, very important role in the ecosystem because they are some of the first food that our native pollinators need to wake up after the winter. And so without these, they're going to have to go a much longer time, and they're not going to be able to get the nectar that they need early in the year to start to get to work and get busy in reproducing. And biodiversity is so essential to our ecosystems because we often think of bees as pollinators, but there are many, many other native pollinators because bees are not native. Honeybees are not native, but we do have 50 to 60 varieties of native bees that do not produce honey, and they need a lot of these flowers to wake up after the winter. And you can always tell a healthy ecosystem by the amount and the diversity of spring ephemerals that exist in this area. Like this toadshade trillium that's getting ready to bloom. You'll only find these in these kind of ecosystems. And not 6 inches away are a few harbinger of springs, which have been in bloom for about a couple weeks now. And I say ecosystem because it's truly what this is. This is a system. Every part and every plant plays a role in keeping this ecosystem healthy, including us, because we are a part of this. We are a part of nature. No matter how much we try and separate ourselves from nature, we are still a part of these ecosystems, and the more that we interact with them, the better. And one way we can interact with them is identifying and getting to know all these beautiful plants. And once we know them, we can do something to save them. Because unfortunately, just like ramps, their habitats are under threat from urban sprawl and suburban development. Here's some cutleaf toothwort. And not many people know that the tuber that is underground is actually edible. And it tastes like horseradish. And so let's see if I can dig down here. And they call it cutleaf toothwort because the tuber, or I should say rhizome, is shaped like a tooth. These beautiful flowers are called rue anemone, and there are many types of anemone, and this is the most common that I see around here, and it's just starting to bloom. And you can see that spring beauties have color variations. Some are more pink and some are more white. And here's another edible spring ephemeral. These are Virginia bluebells, and they're just starting to get their flowers. And I like to pick these right about now because they're not as bitter, and they almost have like a broccoli spinach taste, especially with those unopened flower buds. And by picking them, we are triggering them to grow more vigorously throughout the season. All of these plants are very well adapted for this time of year, and a lot of these plants contain basically antifreeze. So when you see them in a really cold day, or on a frost day, they'll look all shriveled up, but they quickly bounce back once the sun starts shining. Just like humans, plants need a certain amount of stressors to be able to be productive and grow healthy and strong. And by us not interacting with them, it's kind of like never getting off your couch. You know, you're not building up muscle, you're not building stronger. When we harvest responsibly from these plants, we are actually triggering growth hormones in that plant to grow more vigorously, because if it just grows undisturbed year after year, it doesn't have much motivation to grow bigger and stronger, because it can exist in that state just fine. But when we come along and we harvest ramps, or we harvest some flowers or whatnot, we're actually strengthening the ecosystem as a whole, because we're playing our role in the ecosystem, which is disturbance, harvesting, pruning. Humans are amazing because we can act like any animal, and we can basically adapt to any superpower that an animal has. But again, it's all about intention, and it's all about the responsibility we have to these ecosystems. Right here we got a beautiful bloodroot flower. And right here is Dutchman's breeches. This is probably one of the most obscure looking flowers of the spring ephemeral bunch. And this is the flower that can only be opened by a certain type and gender of bee. They pry open that flower to get the nectar out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As the season progresses, I will make more of these videos to kind of show you how it changes throughout the spring. And this is just one of the many, many reasons I love the eastern deciduous Appalachian forests and riparian areas, because they are so biodiverse. And if we can keep these ecosystems healthy while interacting with them in a positive way, we can keep them beautiful and thriving for our children and our children's children.